So the Moonraker study got to me because Jerice and Mia just showed up one night out of nowhere. Mia had the worst attitude, and I asked her for identification and a social security card because after a while I thought Michael was being made to deal with Don Samuels and the Dreamer DACA program females as Shayla was being flipped from prison person to prison person through Bobby Joe Champion. And then I thought the Native Americans came after me under the commissioner through Rita McDermott, Tiffany Mirsch, and Andrea Faulkner using the Department of Human Services. So the case study was supposed to drive me and my kids to our grave. And I worry that my son is on his way. Not because of his lifestyle where Jerice is lying, but because I felt like Joe Biden used him in a recruitment for his election when they started talking about internet gun sales and my job at Kowalski's, where the man I was taking pictures of reminded me of Dwayne, which was Barb Johnson's husband. He was a cop and a person for the mail, which made sense as to how the Robbinsdale post office was tampering with my mail. And then it made sense as to how Stephen Kojos, Travis Glamke, as well as Scott Zierden began to target me for the police department. I thought that they were now using my son in the case from the rental car, where Michael and Jerice got stopped in a rental car where that guy from the Legal Rights Over South said that Paulina Thomas and him decided, one as a white man and a black woman, that they were going to use a case study for Michael. One case study where Paulina Thomas said the charges was too old and couldn't be brought was the black study for Davis, and then they used the study for the white guy where they were now making Michael under the police probation department, where he now had an illegal probation officer in that case study based on the Robbinsdale Police Department using that same case for them, where they were now making Michael do levels tests. And I said there wasn't even a levels law. So that was Tim Walz beginning to attack people in the marijuana community and create a levels limit based on a product that he was bringing out of Denver, Colorado, where a group of businessmen under the Minnesota Business Association had created a dual market for cannabis, marijuana. And then now they were using my son and his friends to target, that community, as well as my nephew, James Baker. I said that the police department, through Scott Zierden, which is the internal affairs, I said Travis Glamke was out of the 4th precinct. I said Stephen Kojos might be out of Robbinsdale, I'm not sure. And then I said that, what's the other one's name? Because it was Travis Glamke, Stephen Kojos, Scott Zierden, and then there's one more officer that had begun to target us. And I said that Joshua R. Williams, through case with Judge Boylan, was supposed to stop them. But through the Minnesota Department of Education, using an election fund, they were now raging a war against innocent black men specific to the sales of marijuana, where Tim Walz was now creating an illegal levels limit based off the manufacturing of cannabis, which is different than marijuana, where he's now trying to create a Minnesota-based product for himself so that he has a dual retirement fund when he leaves the government in Minneapolis. And right now, based on the people who have donated to his cannabis industry, we don't see him leaving for the next 3 years. So I said that they used the Department of Human Services voters specific to the drug program and marijuana specifically targeting me. Because, see, I was an open user of marijuana, but I don't think the stuff I get now is marijuana. I think it's a comparable base out of the Owatonna, Onamia. I believe it's off the reservation of the Native Americans. based on the pipeline, road line that Mark Dayton created as he was leaving and Tim Walz was coming in. I said them two as businessmen using Michael LaFlave out of Denver, Colorado has now created what I consider to be an illegal based weed industry, and they've targeted me. And I said it makes me feel a type of way. I also said that they were spraying it with pharmaceuticals like Adderall, Abilify. I said they might have even used Ritalin. I said they might have used medication like my Aunt Loretta had. My Aunt Loretta was said to be a schizophrenic and that she had a chemical imbalance that they could trace through her blood. I said even those type of meds where I was at Express Scripts and I seen what they gave schizophrenics to be wrong for people like me. But I said that under the illegal deal with Access, where Judge Long got an illegal warrant to force me to do drugs I don't need to do. They've been giving them to me through my Newports. I believe my food. Some people say I'm crazy. But if you're under the Department of Human Services and they're feeding you 3 times a day and they have you going to their specific places, their specific businesses, where these business managers was now acting as nurse assistants and taking your temperature, your vitals before you went to work at places like McDonald's. I said that they have now created an illegal tapping and tracking of an industry and a set of people specific to the Black community under the Department of Human Services, where these private businesses are making them work like Hy-Vee, Kowalski, where they can control them through the police department like they were doing me while I was at Kowalski. Me and that officer, I used to take pictures of him at 73rd and Welcome. I said that he was tapping and tracking me from the Salvation Army. I began to tap the man from the Salvation Army. I even called the police on the Salvation Army man when I went to the Salvation Army. They were supposed to do STS according to the court. I had 1 day of STS due, and the Salvation Army refused to let me do my STS. Literally refused. We had an argument about it at the desk. The little black girl that was getting real smart with me went and got 3 big black men. And those 3 big black men and I got into it because the court sent me there to do STS, and she said she wasn't giving it to me. And then she called me up a week later, said that they had STS for me and that I could come and do STS, but then the court waived the 1 day that I had to do. I said that was them doing another illegal case study with my name at that point. I said I was a little tired of it, but, you know, it is what it is.